Welcome back, everybody. This is Brody with Alfonso Investments. As promised, today we're going to do a card sorting video. We're going to go over the details and the methodology that we use here at Alfonso Investments for sorting cards. So let's just start from the top. Yes, yesterday's video we discussed the frustrations that comes when you're trying to go to a card store and pick up some singles from a particular, any set, could be single. How to avoid that, and how to find cards quickly when you need them. Say the price of a card goes up. You have copies of it. Do you want to go look under your bed, in the bulk bin, or in the back of the closet with the draft chaff that you've been hoarding away for years and years? Or maybe you just had a hell with it and you just threw it all out because it was so overwhelming. You had so many commons and uncommons of different sets and they're all over the place. Has this happened to you? Well, I like to think we found a better way, folks. So let's just imagine we just came back from our buddy's place. We did a Commander Legends draft. We've got some stuff here that we opened. It's really just a bunch of MacGuffins, ladies and gentlemen. So that goes into staging area A, where we'll take out all the basic lands and the token. And that happens over here. All the tokens will go into this pile, and all the lands will go into this pile, and the non-basic lands will go into their own pile. Then the rest of the chaff, it sits here, and it gets sorted by color. Colorless for artifacts. Blue, green, red, black, and white. So regardless of set, it goes in its own appropriate color. And then it moves into this tray over here, which has unsorted by color on this side. And on this side here, everything that you see is sorted in its appropriate color. A little divider in there. You got a bunch of white cards here. Got green cards here. And more green cards. So that you see, everybody, this gives us a way to try and keep tabs on, how far behind we are on any particular color and sorting it. If the green is getting to be about a full row, then it's time to take green and start taking it to the next level and getting it all put in its homes. Multicolored cards go over here. So if there's a card with a gold border or multiple mana symbols in its casting costs, they go over here. We're not going to cover guild factions or like Dimir cards, Izzet cards, and Selesnya cards. There is a method for doing that, but we're not going to address it here in this video. So once we have it sorted in its appropriate color, we take to the skies in our 5,000 count ship that sails all the way back from the early 90s. If anybody here remembers these 5,000 count boxes, these were the most fun things that a kid could have because you could doodle on them. You could put your, favorite artwork on them. You could cut packages off, old boosters, and glue them onto the front. I remember my best buddy, when I got into cards, he had one of these boxes, and when he'd come over to play, he'd open it up, and there's all the goods in there. But the cheapest way to get started with this system is to try and find some of these 4-slot 5,000 count boxes. They are harder to find than you think. I looked around, tried to find a place that actually had them because I wanted 4 or 5 more of them, and I couldn't find them. Finally, I did find some, so I bought them for about $20. The next thing you want to do is get yourself some construction paper, and if you have access to a printer, print yourself off some of these fancy fandangled mana symbols. And as you can see, these have the alphabet on them. Today's video is brought to you by the colors black, white, red, and green, and all the letters of the alphabet A through Z. If you don't have a printer, you can write these out by hand. You can just make them a little taller than a card and cut them out with a paper cutter or a pair of scissors. They sit up a little taller than a card. And then those will be how we Itemize all the colored cards after we've sorted them into bulk by color. So how do we do that? We got sorting trays over here. So once we pick a color and we decide we're gonna start sorting, we can drop one of our alphabetizers into one of these slotted sorting trays. We'll pull a stack of green or whatever color it is and start dropping them in their appropriate slots. All the A's through Z's. I kind of stop at R because everything kind of at that tail end of the alphabet. There doesn't seem to be a whole lot of cards that are in that last few letters of the alphabet, so I just kind of pop them all together, X, Y, and Z, W, X, Y, Z together in a slot of its own, and then I go through those at the end. So it doesn't usually typically be a lot of cards in X, Y, and Z in each color. I want to mention this. The only other reason for using sorting trays here, we use them for deck building. Sorting trays are a great way to find a home for a deck that you want to start building, rather than having those singles put together and in a binder somewhere, or you've got some in a box over here or some in a deck over there. This allows you, if you've got a deck that you're kind of interested in building, you can start by just dropping one or two of the cards as you acquire them into its own slot, and then over time, if you're really passionate about that deck and you start acquiring more cards for it, you just drop them into their little deck slot home, and then you can kind of see how quickly you get to 40 cards. And once you get there, you add some lands and the deck becomes playable. Sorting trays for decks are also handy when you're playing in modern or formats that might have different metas, and when the meta shifts, you want to have a different deck on hand that you want to be able to come into that meta or change in that meta and get your game. Maybe you have a sideboard slot here with several 3 or 4 modern decks, and then when you switch decks, you might be taking cards over from that sideboard or putting cards from one sideboard to another. So you have a sideboard slot, and then you have your deck building slots. I usually have about 10 to 12 decks that I'm either currently using or currently working on. Some of them are in different stages of being ready for play. Some of them are, in fact, being played and active. When I'm done with the deck, it goes back in its slot until it's time to play again. And if I want to tweak cards in and out of a deck, I know all my decks are right there and they're handy, ready to play. So once you go back to the alphabetizing, so sort by color. And then once you sort by color, you drop them into these slots and start doing the A's. And then assuming you've cut out all your little cardboard sorters, your little cardboard tabs, this is sort of what kind of finished products are takes to look like. I have a friend, he does woodworking, and I was fortunate enough to get a set of these deck boxes made for a present. I was very, very thankful to get them when I got them. So these are a wooden version of this 5,000 count box. Of course, they're all handmade and engraved, so they kind of look really nice. So people say, Brody, that's just not going to work for me. I think if you try it, you'll like it. It does a couple of things. It allows you to keep inventory on the levels of cards that you have, regardless of what set they're in, and you'll be able to know if you're getting too many copies of, Wrath of God, or too many copies of a particular card all across sets. You'll notice it, because it'll be heavy in quantity in its home, in its particular color, in its particular letter, and then you can kind of make a decision whether you want to trim down on that copy of that card, or maybe you want to upgrade. Say you've got 52 copies of Lightning Bolt from 5th edition, 6th edition. You got 3 from Revised and 2 from Unlimited. Maybe that having them all, your Lightning Bolts, in one spot will allow you to either trade up into completing that set of Revised Bolts, or maybe even sell off any cards that you don't want. So every once in a while, when you see cards spike in a particular format, you want to find them. Say you're going to let a certain position of a card go. Or maybe it's a card that hasn't seen any action in a long time, and you want to find it quickly because the price just went up. Wall of Kelp or something like that. or Mystic Remora. I remember, everybody was talking about Mystic Remora, and it was a card that it was very sought after in Commander. People said, "Hey Brody, do you have any copies of Mystic Remora?" And that card was starting to go up. So of course I just got out the blue bin here. It's all sorted by color, and in about a couple of seconds I can grab all the M's, go through, and find that copy of Mystic Remora, or that 15 copies of Mystic Remora that you have. Also helps you find commons when you're building decks and you need those clutch commons, knowing where they are. The next level is once you get everything sort of caught up, and you're you haven't done any opening packs, or you haven't brought any new cards into the fold for a while, then you kind of go back through each one of these colors and you put them in by second letter. So, A or A, B, in the A's, and so on and so forth. This method has been tried, tested, and true. Been using it for several years. I'm very interested as a player to have access to the cards that I need when I need them. Sometimes I'm not worried about the particular set that I'm looking for. I'm more interested in finding that copy of Divine Offering, whether it's Mirage or if it's Legends or if it's another set. I just need those common cards, put that deck together that I really want to play. I hope that's been useful for you folks. Gives you another perspective on how to sort cards and get away from the frustration. Hope it's a useful video. Like to see thumbs up, thumbs down. If you have any comments, if you want to say, "Hey Brody, you're doing it wrong," I encourage you to leave a feedback on the video.